On today's Hot Sheet, I'm discussing the Producer Price Index report for December that impacts inflation, housing starts predictions, and the 10 best markets for first-time home buyers in 2025. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, 25. I am Byron Lazine, and the Hot Sheet starts now. Good morning. Welcome into the Hot Sheet. Let me know in the live chat which market you are tuning in from. We finally got good news today. We've been waiting for it for seemingly ever. Through the holidays, it didn't come. Really, for the most part of the fourth quarter, it never came. But now, kicking off with our first real significant inflation report of the year, we've got some decent news, something to build on. We've got to go brick by brick mentality here, because we're still a long way away from the Fed easing up the restrictive policy. But could today potentially be a start? We'll know as soon as in 24 hours if this is from some false momentum. Tomorrow, of course, we have the Consumer Price Index, which comes out, the CPI. We cover that every single month here on the Hot Sheet. We look at how the market reacts, how the 10-year reacts. The 10-year had a reaction already this morning. It's been reacting I would say negatively as of late, if you're following the 10-year and the 30-year, of course, which we are. But maybe today we'll get a little bit of relief as the PPI, the Producer Price Index, the wholesale look at inflation, released its numbers this morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. PPI today comes out for the month of December at 0.2% for the month of December. That's PPI final demand went up 0.2%. That number was expected to come in at 0.4%. So take the expectation, cut it in half. The market likes when these numbers beat expectations. You'd have to go back to September to match a number this low. And to find one even lower, we'd have to go back to July here. You can see that on the chart here. You'd have to go back to July on final demand to get something lower. And so there you go on PPI. PPI coming in at 0.2%. Some of the good news in the December report. Not sure where you're shopping, but according to the report, eggs not going up as significantly as before. So you've got the table here on what did what. If you look at December, energy was up, foods was down 0.1%. You have transportation, warehousing up. So you've got varying results across the board there. Overall, the big number that we care about is, final demand up 0.2%. The headlines were good. I mean, Dow futures moved up. So Dow futures, obviously the market just opened, but Dow futures moved up prior to market move. We'll see what happens here, obviously, throughout the day. Inflation, wholesale prices less than expected. That was the headline here. 0.4% was the increase in November. If we go back to November, and again, 0.4% was the Dow Jones estimate for today. When you exclude food and energy, the core PPI was flat, and there was a forecast for the 0.3% rise. So we got good news. I mean, the 10-year moved a little bit, but we're still in that high 4.7 range that we were looking at yesterday, which is, essentially yesterday set a 52-week high. We're right there. I mean, we haven't gotten much movement on the 10-year. Moved down a little bit off of this news, but we're near 52-week high on the 10-year Treasury, of course, which is having the negative impact on the 30-year fix. Yesterday came in over 7.25 to start the week at 7.26. And, maybe we'll see what happens throughout the day, but maybe we'll get back down under 7.25. It certainly seems like we're going to hang around that number. Off of this, I mean, I know it's basically the expectations are locked in 98%. I think it was 97% yesterday that there's going to be, no Fed cut. I just popped over to CME Group just to take a look after PPI, what's going on. And yeah, still 97%. There's not going to be a cut in 15 days when the FOMC gets together, Jerome Powell and the Fed, to decide what their decision will be on policy. Remember, they've got 8 meetings a year, 8 meetings coming up here in 2025, the first of which being in 15 days. And they themselves, in their projections, just last month in December, said, hey, 2 cuts, maybe 3. They're not going to be looking to cut anytime soon, and they're going to take a wait and see approach, really slowing down after those 3 cuts. Again, we've moved, the 30 years moved up since those 3 cuts, so maybe a good thing, remains to be seen. All right, let's take a look at what we should expect here moving into the new year with housing starts. Okay, new housing. New housing is if you're an existing home sale agent or you deal in existing home sales, hey, new housing starts is competition for you. Vice versa, right? Existing home sales increasing in other markets, in some markets, is competition for new housing. If you think Southwest Florida, where there's a lot of new housing starts and there's a lot of existing homes for sale, active homes coming onto the market, they're directly competing against each other. An existing home sale owner may not like that because that means it puts significant pressure on their price, and it takes a straightforward direct agent to walk them through what that new reality of the price with the increase in competition is going to look like moving forward, not moving behind. Why look in the rearview mirror when you should be looking directly at what is in front of you as an existing home seller? The rearview mirror oftentimes, and that's why I get frustrated with, sometimes appraisers when you're in a market that's moving up fast, or you're frustrated with, I've got a comparative market analysis. Whoopee-doo. Anybody can print one of those out online. It's like, what's the projections in the future? What's the real-time data right now in the last 24 hours? What's the competition look like? What's the feel? What's the agent saying? All those, put those all into a stew and mix it up. And then you might have a real picture of how you should price and think about price moving forward. And competition is one of those biggest metrics that you've got to figure out. If you're not in a new construction market, this competition doesn't mean as much. Okay. It's if you're in a low inventory, non-new construction market, Northeast, then yeah, sellers are still going to have control. They're not going to feel that competition, certainly as other markets are going to. So let's just take a look back before we take a look forward on total housing starts. If we look, through November, seasonally adjusted annualized rates, okay, for U.S. total housing starts by November. So it's 2017, 1.25 million. November 2018, under that. November 2019, over that, 1.35. These numbers start to move up here. November 20, 1.55 million. November 21, 1.7 million. That was your peak on new housing starts. Then we came down to 1.42 in 22, back up to 1.51 in 23, despite the fact that, midway through 22, we had that increase in rates. You still didn't have a lot of that inventory by 23. The housing starts actually increased from 22 to 23. Late 22, they pulled back. They said, whoa, we got no competition here. We're going to come back in. We can cut rates as national builders. They did that in 23, down, up to 1.51 on U.S. total housing starts. And then this past year, lowest number since 2018, and almost an on par number with 2017 at 1.29 million on housing starts. So, is that number expected to move down, move up? Where's the expectation here for 2025? If we take 11 construction forecasts, and this is being tracked by Resi Club. Shout out to Resi Club. By the way, Lance Lambert, founder of Resi Club, senior editor, at Resi Club puts together all these charts. By the way, you can grab one of them or grab these charts here today instead of BAMX. But Lance will be on Knowledge Brokers podcast on Friday. Make sure you go ahead, hit the link to subscribe. Separate YouTube channel. Lance will be joining us on Friday. All right, NAR coming in at 1.45 million, and that's the top number. So that would be a pretty significant increase. The average amongst these 11 are 1.39 million. PNC Bank up over 1.4, Moody's, Goldman Sachs, Capital Economics, and MBA, Mortgage Banker Association, typically conservative on their approaches, all up over 1.4. Bank of America, if you're reading anything that Bank of America says right now, they basically hate this economy. Bank of America, not bullish on what's going on here in 25. Bank of America is at 1.39 million. So they're right at the average, which is an increase on housing starts this year. Zonda, Wells Fargo, Fannie Mae, and the lowest on the list, National Association of Home Builders at 1.33 million. Maybe we consider that one. I'd throw out NAR's bullish on everything. Maybe they're just trying to, I think maybe NAR is just trying to get some street cred back. Like, hey, let's just be at the top of every single list on optimism. Let's go glasses 3/4 full on everything. Let's just maybe they're taking some of that, those expense accounts that they had on the fine wine, the $300 bottles of wine, and they're just pouring it to the top. You ever get with somebody, like a friend that doesn't know how to drink wine, and they fill, or a waiter that's new or waitress that's new, they don't know what they're doing. They fill the wine glass almost to the top, and you're like, oh my God, that's good wine. I don't you can drink that much wine, but drink it in stages, so the wine can breathe. You're not going to suffocate it. NAR is just suffocating the market with these projections, just going glass almost all the way full. They're leading the top of almost everything on these projections. It's kind of amazing to see. Here's the U.S. total housing starts on the chart here. Okay, so coming in at this number, this higher forecast at NAR from 1.45, or the this gray bar that you see in front of you. Grab this inside of BAMX under Hot Sheet show notes and all of that. And then the lower part of that line, would be, again, 1.33 if National Association of Home Builders comes in, more in line with what we've seen the last few years on the low side, and well off of that peak in 21. But again, this whole range is well above that basically 10-year period from 09, you can even go back as far as, 08 or into late 07 to 2018, 2019 levels. So, and this has been prolonged here for, a few years. So we're building a lot more. Unfortunately, we're building a much more expensive product right now. If we look at just single family, we extract this out to single family. November 2018 was the lowest at 781, going back to 2017, under 1 million in 17, 18, 19. Then we went up to almost 1.2 million in 2020, 21, 1.22, 700 down to 796,000 in 22 on single family. So that number in 22, that was closer to 1.2 million. That was a lot of multi there. Starting some multi products there. And then 23, 1.13 million, and 24, 1.01 million. Here's where we come in at single family. And, if you extract that data, National Association of Home Builders has it at 1.01 million, which would be even with where we were for November 24. And this is kind of looking at it, the top line forecast for single family versus the low line forecast versus, that picture of the last 25 years, well above recovery levels, but nowhere near 03, 05, 07 levels. We're not building anywhere close to that. So when people say we got another 07, 08 in your on your hands, here's another data point that would suggest that is not the case. There's multifamily data in there. I'll leave that to you guys inside of BAMX. You can grab that in your hot sheet show notes. Of course, use code HOT to get the hot sheet discount just for the hot sheet viewers in BAMX if you're not a member there yet. All right, Realtor.com put out a report here. Best markets for first-time home buyers. Where should first-time home buyers, especially if they're flexible, if they can move around, if you're in one of these markets, it's great data for you to share. 24% of first-time home buyers in 2024, or buyers rather, were first-timers, according to NAR. So you got 1 out of 4 over the last 12 months buyers being first-time. That is the lowest share, though, since 1981. So less first-time home buyers than we've seen in 45 years, basically. Thousands of would-be first-time home buyers remained on the sidelines. And will they remain on the sidelines here in 25? Well, I got to say, when we're sitting at 7.25 rates, the expectation is, yeah, they're probably going to remain on the sidelines. Here's how Realtor.com came up with these. They scored 3,000, about 3,600 census designated places that are located within the 100 largest metropolitan areas in the country. They chose the highest ranking 10 that had a population of at least 5,000 and at least 500 active for sale listings in the past 12 months. So that's going to push out some of those like Northeast places that we talk about that have really low levels of inventory. Because if you're a first-time home buyer, you don't want to go in there and compete with, offers. So median listing price made up 25% of weight. So affordability was a big part of it. Aggregate location was a big score, 25%. And then number of for sale listings, 10%. Percentage of households, 10%. That the householders between age 25 and 34. So the measurement of a young community in the place. Average length of commutes to work among households, 10%. 10% on forecasted unemployment rate, and 10% on combined forecasted of sale growth. And here you go. Here's your best markets for first-time home buyers. And look at that. You've got a little bit there, almost getting to the Northeast. You got, Rochester, New York. That would be, I guess, Northeast. Tonawanda, New York. Bobby's not in. Haley's on today, but I have no idea. But that's a little far away from Long Island, so maybe Bobby doesn't know his Tonawanda. I'm going to go with that. Lansing, Michigan is in there. You've got Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Wilmington, Delaware, Baltimore, Maryland. Look at these price points for median listing price. We're talking $135,000 out in Lansing, Michigan. Wilmington has $222,000. It's incredible. Baltimore, $210,000. Harrisburg, $140,000. We go down to Florida, where you've got 3 locations. Villas, Florida is $236,000. Lauderdale Lakes coming in at $154,000. Altamonte Springs is $230,000, and then North Little Rock, Arkansas, is randomly out there on the list. You kind of have that grouping in the Southeast, that grouping just kind of, South Northeast, let's say, kind of that Eastern Seaboard, but and then you've got Lansing, Michigan, and North Little Rock. Okay, there you go. There's your top 10 housing markets for Realtor.com based on those metrics that we shared earlier. Here's how their chief economist thinks about this per their PR release, Danielle Hale. Last year, historically low activity for first-time home buyers. So lowest level since 1981. And if you're in one of these, a market that historically drives first-time home buyers, something to share with clients of what's actually going on. Group accounted for only 24 successful home buyers, while home prices remain high. Mortgage rates are forecasted to stay above 6%. I mean, we're at 7.25 right now. So this is, well above 6%. Year is expected to see more inventory, though, hit the market, which will be a silver lining, according to Hale. The places highlighted offer opportunities for first-time home buyers in terms of the cost of housing, availability for home sale, and quality of location. Even in these high opportunity areas, trade-offs likely need to be considered for buyers coming to the closing table. I think the trade-off game right now in 25 with where the rate is going to become a really prominent conversation, as well as what products can you get in front of your home buyer. Okay. And if you allow the financial conversation to solely be on the mortgage lender, and mortgage lenders, listen, bring your agent into these conversations. You want to advance the prospect getting closer to home ownership. It's a two-way conversation that needs to have. Don't leave it to a mortgage calculator. Don't leave it to a data-driven lender either. These conversations, hey, what are the products available? What should we be looking at? What other concessions can we make? What other areas can we look at? Because it's, we're talking about 7 and 7.26 and, 10 years not moved much here. So that's just the reality of where we're at. Hopefully we get a movement. We'll see. We get CPI tomorrow. So we're going to cover CPI, consumer price index, tomorrow. We'll see what the markets do the rest of the day today. We'll see tomorrow morning how the markets respond to CPI. And of course, we'll be covering it all right here on the Hot Sheet. Make sure to subscribe to the BAM YouTube channel. If you haven't used code HOT to get into BAMX, do that today. That comes with the Zoodealio platform to help you get more listings. So many BAMX members are using Zoodealio right now to really generate not only offers on their listings, but more listings as a leverage tool. Use code HOT in BAMX. Again, subscribe to the BAM YouTube channel if you haven't done so. Hit that notification bell. We'll be back here tomorrow, 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West. You know the deal in between. Until then, of course, toodaloo.